Yep. Nice to meet you as well.
Okay, you should see a record button. You are being recorded right now. This is the Yes California Board of Directors third meeting. We just launched, we're having our third meeting. We are up to 41 members. That includes multiple advisors and actual board members. Some of our new people who just joined were Alyssa Rose, Marcus Poulis, Stephanie Kamari, Daniel Garcia, Suzanne Sherman, and Mr. Sutton, representing both conservatives and liberals, mostly from California, but also from the foreign nation of America. Proud to have you here. We are up to 24 chapters, and like I said, over 40 members and continuing to grow by saying this one statement. You don't have to believe in CalExit. You don't have to think it's a good idea. But after there was a militia storming the Capitol on January 6th, do you really think America's permanently stable? And if you're standing on a ship and the water's rising up to your hip, and a Californian walks up to you and says, can we talk about building a life raft? Who's the idiot that says you're stupid for bringing up that idea? I'm just trying to have a conversation about building a life raft in case the ship sinks. Saying that and saying you don't have to back CalExit, we've got 41 people. This represents the largest, most dramatic increase in growth in membership in CalExit in 3 years. I have full intentions to get this board up to 100 people, in addition to having 40 chapters and over 1,000 people who will have photos of signing the initiative. The whole point of that is to do what we call normative impression. Simply put, humans think something's okay if they see other humans saying it or doing it. That's it. So all of the scariness about CalExit, we want to wipe out. We want to say you don't have to believe in CalExit, but you have to believe that given that we're the world's 5th largest economy, given that we're the home of Silicon Valley, given that our governors travel around the world and act like presidents anyways, given that multiple nations have already said they recognize us and treat us separately than America, we could pull it off, California. Let's plan ahead on if we had to. You can reserve the right to say, hey, I don't endorse this idea at all. Is it wrong to have an emergency plan? People have emergency evacuation plans, earthquake plans, drought plans, power failure plans. In fact, planning ahead for the inevitable doesn't mean you're crazy. Most people take having plans that they would hope never happen as a sign of intelligence. That's all I'm saying we do here. With that, we're going to have a big day. We have presentations. There's a standing offer for our Indigenous representative to come and speak at any of these conferences about returning land. I'm not going to name the person. It's up to them to join. Standing offer. Secondly, we have a presentation by Jeremy Zogby. He's talking about how polling over years and decades does show America's increasingly in its division, and he's the kind of person that could make that statement. Additionally, Nate, he'll be talking about what does it mean that Nate Silver said that it's reasonable to talk about a impending California secession because of Republican rule in America. And finally, special surprise, not official polling, not official polling, not official polling. I'm covering you, Jeremy, see? But we have some numbers about California independence that I think you might be excited to see. We'll follow that up with a presentation by Rabbi Stephen Axelman of New York City, inviting Yes California to join the newly formed Americans United for Peaceful Separation. The rabbi watched our second meeting and was so inspired that Americans cannot come together that he's launching his own PAC in New York City. Yes, California, he wants to be one of his first partner agencies. Additionally, we have a presentation by Jason Wright and Dewak Mahajan, both board directors who never knew each other and met each other. They'll be talking about AI machine learning, how to use the computer to develop the proper search terms for CalExit, feed that in data, and then sell that data to companies in order to fundraise for CalExit. Additionally, we have a presentation by Alistair Caithness, Don Sutton, Mitchell drawn a blank, Farhad Khorsani, Camby's Mostafizadeh, about forming a political party of some sorts with a political accountant so that we could have money come in through a kosher manner, totally checked off, and forming the political action committee for Yes California for fundraising. Finally, we'll have a presentation by Nicholas Wildstar on the California governor recall debate. Nicholas has been involved in the recall debate from the very beginning here in California. He's not a white supremacist and he doesn't like Trump, but he still believes that it's okay to ask questions of your elected officials. What a monster, right? He'll be covering that with us. Additionally, Nicholas will be talking about what he says to get over 300 people to sign the petition for CalExit after America rejected Trump. A lot of people said we weren't going to go anywhere. Nick gets people to sign the CalExit thing every single day. They don't care. Biden's elected. We'll cover that. And then we'll cover into some housekeeping. So without further ado, Mr. Zogby of Zogby Polling. Jeremy, what's going on? Is division worse? Has it gotten worse? Or is this just hot air? You're in the position to make a statement. Sir, based upon your evidence with polling, what can you say definitively to everybody watching this? Jeremy Zogby.
Unmute. Thank you, Marcus. Let me say what I can say definitively. It dawned upon me this week. I don't think anyone's ever pointed this out, but think about the times that we're living in right now in 2021. Think about the last 10 years. We saw Occupy Wall Street. We saw the inevitable rise of Bernie Sanders. We saw the Tea Party, and then we saw the inevitable rise of Donald Trump. And so for the first time in American history, what you have, and I'm really going decade by decade, and I cannot find a point in American history where you have simultaneously a populist movement on the left and on the right that are major forces, right? I mean, look, Bernie fans are convinced that in 2016 and in 2020, he got shafted. Of course, Trump won the presidency. So you've got two major populist movements on both sides of the spectrum coexisting at the same time. That has never happened in American history, to my knowledge. I can't think of another decade where that happened. So what that says is that there's immense discontent and mistrust with the system. So you start out with that basic point. And so because this nation was founded on separation, right? The Declaration of Independence arguably is the most sacred document in this nation's history, probably even above the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, because it got it all started, right? So when you have that major populism on both ends, and you see mistrust, you see trust in the federal government at incredible lows, it begs the question, do people want to go their own route? So we've been tracking this secessionist sentiment for many years now. And, you know, going back several years, say like 7-10 years, you probably have long had about anywhere from a fifth to a quarter of the population who have expressed secessionist sentiment. Now, since 2017, it's getting around, it's been around 40%. So I presented to you 2 weeks in a row, and last week I reminded you that in the Western states, secessionist sentiment was as high as 44% in the Western states. And I said to you, I can't isolate the data for California, but then immediately after I said that, I was like, no, I can. That is how we derive at the demographics of regional breakdowns. We ask what state you reside in, and then we repackage it as West, Northeast, South, and so on and so forth. So I had just assumed that there would probably be so little that it would be statistically insignificant. So I went back and I isolated the California residents from that survey that I presented to you over the last 2 weeks, saying that Western states, in Western states, you have 44% who agree with secessionist sentiment. So without further ado, I'm going to share the screen. Oh, disabled. Is there any way?
Here, I'll do it. Hold on. Share. Screen. Exposing sensitive info to start now. Okay. You should be able to. Okay, hold on.
No problem.
Let me figure this out. Stop, share audio off.
I can do it.
Okay, give me 1 second.
No, if you look at participants and click on Jeremy's name, it should pop up the option for him to screen share.
Okay. 1 second. I apologize, everybody. I am
Don't worry about it.
okay. Mute, stop video chat, spotlight video, make host, rename, allow local, allow to multi-pin, put in waiting room, remove. Is make host the same thing as share?
If you make him host, he should be able to share.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna give this a shot. Do you want to change the host to Jeremy? Yes. Okay, Jeremy, to the best of my knowledge, you should be able to share. I'd like to apologize to everybody. I had this worked out on my laptop, and then the laptop completely shut down this morning an hour beforehand. It worked totally fine. So I've lost a lot of the utility. Sorry,
Can you
I'm doing
see
this on
that,
my phone.
everybody?
Yes, we can see that.
Okay. Crosstabs. Okay, so this is a subset of a subset. These are California residents from that subset of 230 Western likely voters. I got to start out with our disclaimer, though. I'm just going to read it. Subsets of the data have a larger margin of error than the whole data set. Remember, the poll of 1,000 was plus or minus 3.2. So the smaller the subset, the higher the margin of error. As a rule, we do not rely on the validity of very small subsets of the data, especially subsets smaller than 50 to 75 respondents, at which we make estimations on the data that are more qualitative and quantitative. Well, actually here we have 90. So this isn't something that I personally would release to the public. I would use this data as internal strategizing because, as you see here, the margin of error is plus or minus 10.5 percentage points, which is a very high margin of error. But anyway, back to the classic question that I've been asking. Statement A versus statement B. A says states seceding from the Union, it's illegal, and any attempt should be put down by military intervention. Basically, the ghost of Lincoln. B says states have a legal right to declare their independence, the ghost of Jefferson. So where do Californians stand on this small subset? We look in this column here, the percent, and 54% agree with states have a legal right to declare independence. Now, based on the margin of error, that could mean as high as 65% or as low as 43%. So the range is 43 to 65%. That was as of July 8th, 2020. I wonder what it would be these days. I don't think it would move out of the margin of error, but who knows? But regardless, you have a substantial level of support. Again, this is a small subset. I would like to see something that would be, you know, like at a sample size of at least 600 in the state of California. But there you have it. So that's one part of what I wanted to talk about. Now, over this week, I saw an article that if my memory serves me well, Texas was going to move forward with the referendum on declaring independence on statehood. And I immediately shared with Marcus. I said, Marcus, take a look at this. Of course, I figured he knew about it. Yeah, we had one of the representatives of the movement.
Yes, sir. Daniel Rice.
And Marcus shoots back with a clip from Nate Silver's podcast, which I had already seen. And basically, the way I understand it, I can't quote exactly what Nate Silver said, but keep in mind, Nate Silver was from the New York Times. That's about as establishment as you get, right? It can't get any more establishment than the New York Times. What does the establishment like to do? They like to misconstrue. They like to use ad hominem attacks on character of whatever narrative that doesn't fit within their narrative. And if I listen to Nate Silver's words, it was something along the lines of, it doesn't seem ridiculous to imagine that at some point in our lifetime, we won't have 50 states in the union, whether it's because of Texas on the right or because of California on the left. Now, what that signals to me is that this topic of secession is on the brink has the potential to go viral. And I'll step back and I'll leave it at that.
Let me make 2 comments. Jeremy, could you return hosting to me, brother, please?
Yep.
And hopefully I can accept that and not screw this up. Jason, I might be looking at you if I act like an old person, don't know what he's doing. Okay, can everyone see me? Okay, Jason, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Sorry, I'm 43, folks, and I lean on Jason a lot, not a techie. So, I blah, blah, blah. 2 points. One is that in January and February 2017, Stanford University asked about the support for secession, and it was 32% were for it, and about 14 to 15% said, I don't know. Reuters, February 2017, did the exact same thing. Are you for secession, against it, or don't know? 32% were for it, 15.7 were not sure. Now, the news reported that as only 1/3 are for it and then assumed that the rest were against. That's not what Stanford or Reuters did. They asked, are you not sure? Now, when we add the are you for secession plus the not sure, the average was about 46 to 47% of Californians were open to discussing it. So I find it highly intriguing that Stanford and Reuters 3 years ago came up with 47% were open to discussing secession. And here's a Zogby poll showing the low range is at 43%, or a 5% difference. You all picking up what I'm saying here? They both said there's about 45, 47% of people willing to talk about secession. We got Zogby's poll saying, hey, the low end says it's 43. That's only 5% off. So I think there's something there. That's the low end. I think that if the low end of Zogby poll is basically within the margin of error, the Stanford and Reuters Ipsos poll from February 2017, then we're looking at that as the baseline, and we're more likely looking at 54% is accurate, because Zogby's baseline lines up with roughly where Stanford and Reuters were, which makes me think it's even more, especially after January 6th. Second point I'll make is Nate Silver is, like Zogby said, super well established. He's possibly considered the most respected voice on politics. I understand not everyone likes him. I'm just talking about how the media views him. I get it. You don't need to tell me he's a shill and a hack. I got it. In America, Nate Silver's seen, because we have some lefties who are like, he did this, he did that. Okay. But in general, in America, he's seen as the voice on what's reasonable to discuss in politics. On his show last week, and this was brought to us by board member Darren. Thank you, Darren. On his show last week, they were talking about division and coming together as a nation for like 40 minutes. And then out of nowhere, Nate Silver goes, should we talk about maybe there's not going to be a United States of America? Like, he interrupts his own people on his own show, the official 538 podcast, head top guy, and goes clear out to left field and goes, here's a question none of you are thinking. And it goes like this: what if there ain't no United States of America? And then he literally says, as his first example, what if California decides it doesn't want to live under a minoritarian Republican rule? We have been saying that in Yes, California for over a year and a half. In fact, Hannah Miyamoto, say what you will, was one of the first people to point that out. We also had a professor out of USC who said the same thing. The Constitution allows red states to not have the majority vote and then run everything with the Senate, the Supreme Court, and the laws that are passed. What if California decides we don't want to do that anymore? So I find it striking that a year ago, a USC professor said the same thing. 2 years ago, Yes, California said the same thing. And now 1 week ago, Nate Silver said exactly the same thing. And Nate Silver said that 2 weeks after the Yes, California Board of Directors launched, saying the same thing. You don't have to believe in CalExit, but now is the time to have this conversation, and you are not insane for wanting to do that. 2 weeks ago, we said that. Then a week ago, Nate Silver backed us up as big as you could do it. So I think what we're talking about is the time. It's time for this conversation. I'll stop and turn it over there. Jeremy, thoughts? And then Jason and Marcus and I think Mike Hale. Jeremy, comments? Then we'll go around.
I'm good.
Okay, please keep your comments to about 2 or 3 minutes. I want to get everybody in. Let's go to Darren Brown, who has his hand up. Darren, you go first. I'm just going to go down the list.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I wanted to ask Jeremy just a point of clarification. We're discussing kind of these polls from a few years ago and then the current one you're talking about. Not to put a tiny damper on it, but it seems like they're asking slightly different questions. The ones Marcus is referring to when they're asking Californians was asking, do you want to leave? Like, do you want to secede? And this question seems to be asking slightly more different question. Do you think states have the legal right? So potentially somebody could say, yes, states have the legal right, but personally, I'm not there yet. I'd be interested to know what the breakdown in the numbers would be in the distinction between that, or if you have any data on that.
It was a little bit muffled, but let me do my best answering it. And if I don't answer the question, please, redirect me. But okay, so let's look at the nature of the question. Which statement is more in line with what you believe? And right, I'm just going to simplify it: Lincoln or Jefferson, right? Put it down, it's a rebellion, send in the military, keep them. Or Jefferson, everybody has a right to declare independence. So right there, I mean, I would say that it's a philosophical, it's where do you fall philosophically? And arguably, it could reflect values. So in other words, those 54, again, with the plus or minus margin of error, saying that they believe there is a legal right. No, you're right. That doesn't mean will you go to the polls and will you vote if there's a referendum, but it shows you that there is potential for support of the movement if they agree with it. So I would agree with you. There's different layers to the question, or to derive at where people really are. And first you start with basically, do you agree or do you disagree? And then what would you do in the actual event?
And
so,
sorry.
No,
Yeah,
go
so
ahead.
I agree with that. And this gets to, there was a conversation Marcus had with Hannah about a month ago on normalcy bias, because this is something I've noticed. You just had a poll that said, maybe up to half of people think, yeah, this is something that's allowed or, is not, completely out of the ordinary. And yet when I talk to people, there's still kind of a, well, that's not really, I think just because, again, there's a normalcy bias that, the country has been this way for a long time. It's always going to be that way. And their minds just don't want to go there. So anyway, I was just throwing that out, that people can have, people can have their own opinion, but unless they see it manifested in other people expressing the same thing, it doesn't necessarily get motion.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that, first you measure sentiment, you measure the where people are philosophically and values wise. And if you see strong intensity, then you work on the call to action. And so I didn't want to ask a question about, will you vote for secession, because there is nothing like that going on right now. I'll ask that when we cross that bridge. Like if somebody hires me to go into Texas and to poll, now is the appropriate time, because they're working on that referendum. So, but nonetheless, the philosophical alignment with the values shows it shows intensity based on the percentage we just saw, and it shows that people don't think it's crazy, people don't think it's taboo. I'm trying to come up with an analogy off the top of my head, but I can't right now. But it's a good question, what you asked, though, Darren.
Okay, Darren, follow-up question?
No, I think
Okay.
Leave it to
We're
somebody
gonna
else or
move-
go to the next person? Yeah.
We'll go to the next person, but first, because we're building this organization, I just got done reading how to form a functional nonprofit board. And they said, both the Urban League and the Congressional Research Study on this and Deloitte management study on this, they said, look, if you want to have a successful board, guess what's most important? Paperwork? No. Outlining everything? No. Culture. So what we just saw was a college professor, high-ranking education person, Darren. And he got to speak directly to a pollster about a secession question. And Darren, you called me out, and I love you for it. These are the kind of critical conversations I want to have here. Look at what's going on, folks. Pollster, middle of America, Californian, super education person. Hey, we're disagreeing. I disagreed with what Marcus said, but we're having intellectual, high-level conversations about where this country's going and the possibility of a CalExit. Nobody is having these talks in America. Nobody in CalExit is having it at this level. And it's a privilege to be able to have both of you on and provide this forum. And I just wanted to highlight, this is success. We're having debates. We're talking about what's right, what's not right. I disagree, but we're having high-level conversations about CalExit. This is what I meant when I started off. You don't have to believe in CalExit. You have to believe it's a reasonable conversation. And I just saw really smart people debate about how to talk about that. This is exactly what I've been dreaming for. I'm going to stop my cheerleading, go to the next person. Zorro. Matt, you're up. Now, here's the thing, Matt, questions for Zogby, no statements, specific questions for Zogby. Jeremy isn't here very long, so please have specific questions for Zogby. Matt Owen.
Well, given that shortly before the fall of the Soviet Union, 75% of its citizens said they wanted to the USSR to stay in some form, and then came the coup. Would you say that California is further along the road to independence than the Soviet Union was to dissolution based on the two contrasting polls?
Good one. Jeremy?
Wow, that's a difficult analogy to compare. You're saying you saw a study where people in the Soviet Union were asked whether they wanted to remain intact?
There was, just before the coup attempt of August, in like May of 1991, it wasn't just a survey, it was actual referendum in which the Soviet government asked its citizens, do you want the USSR to continue in some form or another, to be decided at a later date? And over 75, between 70 and 75%, depending on which republic you're looking at. And most of them actually did allow the referendum to proceed, but about between 70 and 75% said that yes, we do want the Soviet Union to continue as a union of Soviet Socialist republics in some form or another. That was in like March or May or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then came the coup attempt of August 19th through 21st, 1991, and they stood back as the four largest republics seceded, basically. So that was like 70 some odd percent. And now you're saying that your poll and the other two are saying that close to half of Californians are open to the idea of secession, of independence.
Well,
seems by your poll and their polls, we're further along than those who wanted to break up the Soviet Union were.
Thank you, Matt. Jeremy?
I would say that, well, just to be clear, the specific wording is asking whether you think there's a legal right. So not so much, and I'm sorry, Matt, the way that you worded it, open to the conversation. I guess you could interpret it that way. I guess you could, what's the term? Extrapolate, but I'm just going based on, do you think that people have the legal right? And this is coming from a liberal state, and the idea of secession is almost always referred to as something that is white supremacist, KKK, Nazi, Confederate, So I find it fascinating that the most progressive state in the union says that there's a legal right, when the very nature of progressivism is centralized government. So
Hmm.
to the point about the Soviet Union, remember the old saying that, and I'm going to paraphrase it, that Stalin said it. It's not the people who vote that count. It's the person who counts the vote. Right? So
Okay, moving on.
I'm a little bit skeptical of that survey, but look, at that time in the world, nobody could have envisioned. Nobody, if that's true, that 70% thought that it should stay together and it will stay together. Very, 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 very few people in the world foresaw that. Most people thought this will go on for decades. So,
Well, Californians may
Matt?
be asking
Matt?
whether we have the legal right to secede. It was crystal clear in the Soviet constitutions that they did have the right to secede. It was
Okay,
right
I'm going to
there.
stop it there. Sorry, I'm going to stop it there. I want to give everybody a chance. No offense. I want to give everybody a chance. I will point out, Jeremy, that you're absolutely right. Almost nobody saw the Soviet Union collapse, except for the nation of Estonia. In Estonia, they straight up said 2 years before, this whole thing's coming down, and everybody laughed at them. And they were 100% right, and everybody who laughed at them was 100% wrong. How did they see that?
Lithuania. It was Lithuania.
Lithuania. Thank you. Okay, moving questions for Jeremy. Jason Wright. Quick question for Jeremy, specific to the polling.
Yeah, so for me, I hear these numbers and like you had said, it's not really stuff that we could feel good about like publishing, but it does help us in the sense of like we can look at it and extrapolate data and figure out what to do with it. It makes me hopeful seeing that the numbers are at the very least relatively the same as they were 4 years ago, or at least having picked back up to where they were 4 years ago. At the very least, if not actually even more supportive. I do see the validity of the question of, do you think it's legal? Do you agree that it's legal? My question, my thought, I mean, it's not so much a direct question, but the thing I'm thinking is, what might it take for us to say, get the question out there of, if this referendum was proposed within the year, would you support it, or something like that? The question is a multi-part. It's that, one, do you think that would be something worth asking? Like, not just worth asking, but like, do you think that's a good thing for us to be asking right now? And then also, how might we go about getting that question asked if it is the appropriate time for it?
Okay, Jeremy?
you hit the nail on the head, Jason. That's pretty much almost off the top of my head, that's about exactly how you do it. Like when we do in any election survey, if the election were held tomorrow, and we're not going to ask people in 2021 about polling about the 2024 election. We'll do that when people start campaigning, right? When people start announcing, we'll say the election were held today and the candidates were so and so and so and so, for whom would you vote? And so we would do it exactly that, pretty much what you just laid out. So when it's in the air, and maybe it's in the air, or when there are talks about the referendum, you got to ask that question. If the referendum, whatever the number is, based on California leaving the union, which would you vote, yes or no? And that's exactly how you do it.
Okay. Moving on, next question. I want to give
And so,
everybody, Jason, I need to give everybody a chance. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, his second part to the question was, how would they go about doing it? Talk with me.
I'm sorry, Jason, go ahead and finish up real quick. Sorry, brother. Jason?
Yeah, no, that was it.
I'm sorry, Jason, nothing but love. I just want to make sure everybody gets a chance to ask Jeremy a question because, you know, he's like, hey, I can only be on for so long. And I'm like, okay. Moving on. Mike. I just got not Mike Hale, but just a general Mike. Mike with no last name. Question for Jeremy Zogby? Okay, Mike Hale. Question for Jeremy Zogby? Okay, Nicholas Wildstar. Would you like to ask a question of Jeremy Zogby?
No, thank you for the information. I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
You got all nice new shirts. Okay. How about you put your hand up if you want? Robert Stark. Robert Stark, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, so Jeremy, the polling about secession that was, or about independence was nationwide. Do you have specific polling on the increase in support within California? And is there a regional breakdown or partisan breakdown?
It would get you into the weeds if I looked at it. I mean, it'd be like looking at, you know, 50 Republicans and no, I'm sorry, way more Democrats, probably like, you know, 60 Republicans and no, 60 Democrats and 30 Republicans. And by that point, it's getting way too, I would have, it would fall within that disclaimer that we have, those subsets smaller than 50 to 75. And so at that point, I wouldn't even want to speculate.
Okay, real quick, I need to point out, Jeremy, you're still host of this meeting. I need you to transfer hosting back to me.
Okay.
Anybody knows the right button for him to press? Because if you're still host and you leave, the whole meeting shuts down. So,
Okay.
and again,
Well, yeah, I should probably just draw, or unless I go under participants. No.
I think Jason, how does he do this? He clicks participants, clicks
Yeah.
my name. I think you click my name, Jeremy.
Okay, more.
And then it should pop up a thing
there you go.
allowing him to, yeah.
Got it.
All right, back on normal. Thank you, everybody. Okay, Sam Chaney. Any questions for Jeremy Zogby? A specific question for Jeremy Zogby, and then we'll go to Rabbi Stephen Axelman next.
No specific question, just thanks for your analysis. Very informative.
Thank you.
I'm not even going to comment on your screen grab. We'll do that later. Rabbi Stephen Axelman. Rabbi, do you have questions for Jeremy Zogby?
Oh, thank you.
Okay. All right. Jeremy, closing statements, and then we'll move on to the next segment. You have
Marcus,
anything?
I'd like to ask a couple questions.
Yeah, Marcus. Hey, yeah. If I miss you, please. Hey, sorry. Marcus Poulis, questions for Zogby.
Yeah, one of the, and I don't know how much of this is a question, just to, something to point out. What is the chances of changing the wording of that and redoing the poll? Because one of the things that I'm sure you're aware of is that the wording can definitely change the analysis. We touched on that earlier with the question about law and is it legal? Because you know, I worked for Adam Kokesh for 3 years, and we had a hell of a time convincing people to dissolve the federal government. But when we moved that to let's localize government and change the wording, we got an explosion of support. Now, it wasn't enough to get us the nomination, but it was a significant change. Can you kind of address the possibility? Because I think that, you know, in comparison, we're talking about a number that is very close on the low end to how many people voted for Donald Trump. The people that voted for Donald Trump is 46.8% of the American populace. And if we're talking about around 43% of the people, and they're concerned about, oh, the Constitution, they don't really know the Constitution, but oh, the Constitution wouldn't allow that. So no, I don't. that's a different question than do you support CalExit, or do you support a state's right to secede? When you include the word law, it changes the question.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, so I've asked the variations of this question a few times over the years, and I'm constantly trying to perfect it. It also just depends on, what's going on in the news to make it, more appropriate to the times. And so, I mean, just, overall, it's like, well, Lincoln established the precedent that it is illegal, right? So that's why I roll with that style of question, because that is the precedent. That is how it's taught in public school, that you save the union at all costs and you ruin the experiment if a state leaves. And that's really I would say, I don't want to say the general consensus, but it seems to be a large part of the ethos. But yeah, I mean, you could go in different directions that we tailor based on the needs, of course, keeping the question scientific. But yeah, I mean, there are many different ways that you could go about it depending on the specific context. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, just to follow up, by putting it into the hands of a word like law or in authority or something like that, that is automatically going to bias people against your argument just out of the get-go, because all of these ideas are designed, and from my perspective, to reinforce the status quo. And I think that by having it a little bit more general, I think you actually increase the numbers. Just something that I'd like to add.
Do you support a state leaving?
Yeah, something like that.
Truthfully, I think they're one of the same. Do you have do the residents have a legal right, or do you support? I think they're synonymous.
I disagree, and the reason I disagree is, do you support people smoking marijuana is a different question than do you think that marijuana should be legal?
Yeah, it's different, but I think it's synonymous.
Okay, let's
Synonymous
stop.
doesn't mean the same, it means similar.
Okay, points taken. Great debate. If you want to ask Jeremy a question, I want to make sure I get everybody. Raise your hand right now. I'm not seeing any hands raised, so I'm going to turn it back to Jeremy. Jeremy, closing statements, and then we'll move on to Rabbi Axelman.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for all the questions. And if you have more questions, feel free to email me, Jeremy at johnzogbystrategies.com, and I will get back to you right away.
I'll make sure if you have any questions or any information, please send that to me or Jeremy directly. If you blah, 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 I can make sure you get them. Matt, Owen, if you would send me that Soviet survey, and I'll make sure Jeremy gets that for giggles.
Oh,
okay.
sure.
Thank you, brother. Okay, moving on. Rabbi Stephen Axelman. Out of New York.
Can I share my screen?
Yes, let me, let me hold on 1 second here. Stephen Axelman. Okay, I'm gonna make you the host and then you'll have to, okay, you are the host. You should be able to share screen now.
Got it.
Okay, we can all see that. It's
Okay.
looking nice.
Can everybody there see a screen, or are there people who are on a different medium?
They should all see it, sir.
Good, because I don't need to read for people. All I'm doing very simply right now, this is just a website. I put very clearly here that we're not affiliated with anybody in any way, nor should this listing imply that in any way. And what I'm doing so far is I made a mission statement, which I'm hoping everybody can read within about 120 seconds, and I'll just be quiet.
I love it, especially the very last sentence.
I have family members not happy, but we'll leave that on. Okay, all I've done very simply is I've made a website. I have links for CalExit, New Hampshire, Texas, Greater Idaho, and then all of these links, general stuff that's out there on secession. Even found out Alaska's got a party. I've only thrown this together for a couple hours. My purpose is quite simple. If everybody's talking to each other, I don't need to do anything. If I can facilitate people talking to each other, that's wonderful. I want this to be a central place where everything out there on secession anywhere in the country, and for that matter, anywhere else in the world, can be linked to it. I'm hoping that the various movements say, okay, you can put our name on your page with permission. Doesn't matter all that much, but anything I can do to facilitate liberals, conservatives, and libertarians talking about this thing, getting it out there so none of us are just looked at as extremist nuts. That's all I'm about. The only thing I'll ask as a favor besides is a minimum $10,000 to join my website. Other than that, if everyone would please, if you have great articles on secession, just forward them to me. I want this to be a place where everybody knows what's going on in as many states as possible. That's my whole piece. Thank you.
Rabbi, you told me something. How did you get this idea? I think it was after you came to one of the CALEXIT conferences.
Well, I've been wanting, since I talked to you and I've talked to Daniel Miller, and I'm good friends with the New Hampshire people, even though they're too busy to talk. I don't know if there's a clearinghouse. I know there is a secession.com or something. There are a few groups that I've linked to here, but I'm trying to not unify the people necessarily, but to make it easier for people to know what everybody else is doing and to talk to each other. Because I'm across the world from you guys, and I'm across the world from you guys ideologically in many ways. And that's why I'm calling it. The name just came to me. We're unified for separation, which I just love that idea. So that's why I'm calling it. And I stuck UPS in the name so they can sue us and we can get known.
Housekeeping real quick. If you could mute yourself, there's a few people who have some background noise in the front. That's totally fine. But if you can mute yourself, that'd be great. So Rabbi, you had told me that you had gone to the second meeting and you had said, look, it's obvious. You have Californians and you got people from around America, and we don't agree. We don't have the same values and things are getting worse. And so better that we have a peaceful divorce than anything else. I was blown away that you went to our meeting and you were inspired to do this. I view that as proof of accomplishment, that we're able to inspire people to do things and build partnerships with Americans outside. Additionally, I would like to say, yes, California accepts the invite, and we would love to be and privileged to be one of the early adopters of this. Consider us a partner agency. I also advise anybody who's in Yes California to go ahead and work with and send articles to the Rabbi. I'll get you that contact information. Okay, Rabbi, you have a couple questions.
Quick question. Are you Yes California, CalExit, both, neither?
Yes California, CalExit. That's typically what we go by, is Yes California, CalExit.
All right. If you have another logo you want me to stick up here, please send it. That's fine.
Our main logo's on the YesCalifornia.org website. I'll send that to you. But if you go to YesCalifornia.org, if you go to YesCalifornia.org and you scroll to the very down, there's our logo, and if you click it, but I'll send it.
I'm really good at stealing logos, as you can tell. What would be really cool is if you link your movement to this website, then when people say you're nuts, they can just look at the pictures, and I'm hoping to get a few more to say, well, if we're nuts, there's a whole bunch of people that are nuts.
That's the whole point.
And that's really the point.
That's what we're trying to do.
This way you can free California and Daniel can free Texas, and everybody can say there's a whole bunch of states that have some kind of nascent movement. All I'm doing is making a website at the moment. Marcus, since you sucked up to me, you don't have to pay the initiation fee.
Okay, we're going to do some questions. If you have a question, please click that raised hand thing. I'm just going off the participant list. If you go to participants and you click your name, you will see the option to put a hand up. If you put that hand up, I'll call on you. So first person we're calling on is Zorro. Matt, no statements, questions about this organization. please.
Well, are you open to including multi-state confederation kinds of secession movements? Because I know of a couple, and
Right.
you know, their projects don't always go with the other projects, but that's fine. That's, for example, the one that leaps to my mind is the Cascadian independence movement. They want to reunify the Oregon country, which consists of Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia. Where there's also Jefferson, which kind of is in a conflict with that. And these other folks, Greater Idaho would be in a conflict with that, but that's not the question, whether they conflict or not. The question is whether they are in favor of peaceful secession. There is also a New England Confederation / secession movement, okay, which again might conflict with the New Hampshire folks. But again, the question isn't whether they conflict with one another. Are they in favor of peaceful secession? Okay, so you do have those confederations that want to secede and reunify as confederation. We're kind of involved with that with our Baja folks, who, by the way, consistently outpoll us. They got a majority there. Not only do they have majority poll supporting secession in the Baja Peninsula, it's 2 states. They actually Mexican mainlanders, and they said, if you want to go ahead. So yeah, if are you interested in also including multi-state confederation type of secession movement?
Thank
Yeah,
you, Matt.
real simple answer is the way I made the title for the organization. I didn't want secession because it triggers people, and I think separation covers your question. So yes, definitely. This is about, we don't have to live in the same house when we're killing each other. And any way you want to split up peacefully, I'm good. I'm also open to any input. If people, have a better idea, that's fine too.
Okay, next question. We're going to go to Jason Wright. Jason has his hand up. Jason Wright, a question for Stephen Axelman.
Yeah, so I gotta say, I love it. I have been talking for a long time about we need like a general archive where, what you got going right there, just every link you could possibly ever want or need to look at in relation to, the hashtag CalExit California Independence Movement, which is YesCalifornia.org. Or the Cascadia movement, or the Alaskan, or the Texit, right? Like, how you've got it grouped up. I'm loving that. I also want to say thank you as another person in the Yes California vote. Thank you for extending this to us. That is huge. So my question would be, one, do you plan to make it a little more of an archive / add like another page to it where it's like an archives page, a list of the groups page, contact thing or whatever, kind of sectioned out website? And then also, I was also thinking about our friends in Baja, because it says Americans, and Central and Southern Americans are Americans, right? So does it technically extend to all of the Americas? Meaning we can go as far as Hawaii and all the way down to, just before you hit Antarctica.
Okay, Rabbi?
Yes, no, and maybe. Thank you for your compliments. I would love to archive everything there is there about any kind of separation movement. This idea came to me Friday afternoon. I don't work on the Sabbaths. This has taken me about 5 hours so far. That's it. As far as non-United States movements, there's no reason they can't have information on this page. They're just not what I'm calling Americans because I'm trying to divorce from the 50 of us, but I don't mind having information. What I'd love for y'all to do is if you know people in these various movements, ask them to send me an email. I would love to have them up here because I think the more logos, the better it is. And at some point, if some of you guys are SEO experts and hashtag experts, I'd love you can help me to get this to the people. If they look for CalExit, would see this, but that's for somebody else's expertise. Okay.
Okay.
So yes
All right.
to everything where it's got to do with information so people see we're not crazy.
Thank you. Next question, Mark Poulos. And please, I understand people are passionate. Short statements or no statements and specific questions, just because we have a couple different issues and we have a lot of people. So Marcus Poulos, questions for Rabbi Axelman on the Americans United for Peaceful Separation.
It's pretty simple. Have you considered reaching out to the Kokesh campaign? I know a guy, his name's me, and might be able to hook you, might be able to hook you up with an endorsement or from he hasn't officially launched his 2024 presidential candidacy, but Adam would certainly be in support of this and would likely be in favor of wanting to, push you as well. I also, this is a statement, sorry, Marcus, but anyone in this group that might be interested in sharing their ideas about secession in particular, I'm the schedule for Adam versus the Man. We'd love to have you on.
Again,
Nice.
yes to all of the above.
Okay. You can get a hold of me at marcus@thefreedomline.com.
Okay. Marcus, just stick my email there in the thing, will you?
Yeah, I'll make sure that Rabbi, I'll make sure that everybody, yes, I'll make sure that everybody gets your contact information and knows about the project. So
right, the more,
that,
because one of the things I do want to add to it is statements from Dennis Prager, these guys, the bigger, the better, so that we can put up, links to YouTubes and stuff. Whoever has said secession ain't nuts, I'd love to have them here from any movement. And again, if you get a Kokesh, I'll get a Rush Limbaugh. I don't care. I want everybody to know that extremists on both sides have even mentioned this, and that's cool.
so I'm going to send out a mass email. In the email that goes out to the board members, it lists all the major projects and the person's email. So in the next email coming out today, you're going to see Jeremy Zogby polling, and then his email, and you can contact him, or Stephen Axelman, and you can contact him about the separation idea. Real quick, I'm sorry, it reminds me, Marcus Poulos, thank you. Thank you, Marcus Poulos. Thank you, Marcus Poulos. So Marcus Poulos works with Adam and the Man. That's a huge show. And everybody who's on the board, you can contact Marcus and ask for an interview. Additionally, I want to point out that Sam Chaney is also a board member. He's kind of conservative. He's also asking board members for interviews. And I need to point out that Darren is a liberal, has a great podcast, and is also asking for interviews. So now we have 3 different, separate, middle, right, left podcasts or interview shows trying to interview everybody who's a board member. And that's super mega awesome. And I'm sorry for pushing along. I just want to make sure we get everything out. Okay, Mike. Question for Stephen Axelman? Rabbi Axelman? Mike? Someone named Mike has his hand up.
Sorry. Hi, Shalom, Rabbi. I would
Hey,
like
Mitchell.
what? Sorry. I'd like to compliment you, but for the sake of brevity, let's keep it short. So have you considered adding something like a progress bar or some form of statutization?
What the heck was that word?
Progress bar.
Yeah.
No, the big word.
Statutization.
Okay, never heard it. But again, I'm open to any suggestion. Please send me an email. This is literally the infancy of this. So yes, I'm open to anything. Again, people have a place to look and say, hey, some people are talking about it. It's moving somewhere. Okay.
Okay. The other thing I was going to suggest is maybe if you look online a little bit, you'll find out how to create a Wikipedia style back end, which means that if somebody clicks on a link, it goes to a Wikipedia style page.
I love it. I'm into anything.
All right, well, that would be a way to kind of capture more information on the groups.
Yeah, I would
And-
love to meet with any of you on Zoom or by phone, and any great ideas, I'm totally in. I'm not
Okay.
averse to somebody helping me with the website and having to log in either, so, okay?
Okay, well,
Thank
right.
you.
thank you. This is a great idea.
Mike, any other questions? You're brilliant. Thank you for coming out. Any other questions? Because you always have insightful stuff. Mike, any other questions?
About the warehousing, about the information warehousing site, it's a brilliant idea. We
No,
should've done it
just
long
just
ago.
about the idea of launching a group called Americans United for Peaceful Separation.
Why don't you change the name to New Union? That'd be my only suggestion.
Okay.
I told you, I want UPS to sue me.
Yeah, I know, it's a good idea. But I don't know, do lawsuits make that much headlines these days? I don't know. All right, that's it.
It is great wordplay on the name though, AmericanUPS.com, and that'll just drive all sorts of traffic to the website.
He's not wrong. Thanks, Nick. That's a good point. You are very handsome, by the way. Okay, Rabbi, any closing comments or any last questions from anybody? Rabbi, closing comments?
Everybody can get in touch if they got great ideas. That's what I'm here for.
Okay, and that's what we're here for, trying to connect people. So I will make sure everybody gets the Rabbi's information. I'll make sure everybody gets the Zogby information, and I will make sure that everybody knows how to contact Marcus Poulos for an interview on Adam versus the Man, how to contact Sam Chaney for an interview with conservative media, and how to contact Darren Brown for a California podcast. If I could ask everybody to mute themselves, there's a little bit of tapping in the background, sorry. Okay, moving on to the next subject, we're gonna go to DeWonk, Mahajan, and Jason Wright for about, oh, I'm sorry, Marcus, you have a question? Marcus Poulos?
I'm good.
Mark Poulos, will
I'm
you go
good.
to participants and lower your hand?
Oh,
Oh, okay.
sorry.
All right. Okay, then we're going to move on to DeWonk Mahajan and Jason Wright talking about AI and how we can use it to sell data to raise money. Jason has never met DeWonk before joining the board, but the two of them have had a lot of conversations. Jason, in about 5 minutes, so we have some time for questions. What is this big idea? What exactly are you and Mr. Mahajan, a data scientist out of India, talking about? Can you explain it to, like I'm 5 years old and not a techie? What is this thing and how does it work and equal cash? Jason Wright.
Yeah, unfortunately, DeWonk's not here. Basically, it all comes down to analytics, being able to mass gather, mass comb or search through the web, mass gather specific bits of information that are relative to what we're looking for. And then, the AI comes in, AI is the technical term for it. It is not a sentient artificial being. It's a computer program that is built on randomizations and able to basically calculate near human capacity for randomization. Most computer programs, you have to input that 1 + 1 = 2. And, go the whole chain. And if you don't, then it won't understand it when it gets there. AI refers to the fact that it is programmed to be able to figure out that 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4, therefore 4 + 4 would be 8. It can help us to extrapolate the data or figure out what, now that we've pulled all of this stuff from the web, what does this all mean? What does this tell us, right? It's much like Zogby's analytics, right? It allows us to say, we see a trend here saying that people are more likely to say yes when it comes to, is this legal? And maybe a little less likely to say yes with, do you want to secede right now? So we can, it could have some of the effects of polling, but not really. It's not as accurate, but it's a little more wide stretching than making a poll and putting it out there. Making a poll and putting it out there, you get very specific, detailed. So this could be used to help us figure out what question we want to ask on said poll. We can use this program to comb through all of the internet looking for anything that's related to the hashtag CalExit, because that's been around for years. It's what is kind of the largest portion of the online media attention ends up tagging California independence, secession, self-determination type stuff with, but also what they identify it with. The California independence movement is CalExit, which is put on by Yes California, right? So they are all one and the same, but when you're looking online, hashtag independence, hashtag California, hashtag CalExit. Those are the three main ones. So it makes the job of the web comber a little easier. We put that in, we get a lot more data than we could ever actually look at ourselves, which is why you need the program, the AI program that can comb through it, sort it all out, and tell you, wow, there's been 1,268,000 whatever hits. I pulled that number out of the air. Disclaimer. But there have been so many hits with in these articles that have hashtag CalExit. There have been so many hits of the word independence, or so many hits of the word self-determination, or so many hits of the word secession, right? The dirty word. Obviously they're all the same thing. One has a more negatively charged connotation to the other ones, but ultimately this is all about helping us refine and then be a little more efficient, a little more proficient. DeWonk is a student as well as a professional software engineer, and he, like, I may sound techie, and like Marcus praises me as a techie guru, and I'm like, oh, thank you, because really, honestly, I'm not. Like that would be DeWonk. DeWonk can make this program. I can't. You give me all the software, I'm gonna need a year or two to hardcore study it just to be able to start. DeWonk's already, yeah. So for the fundraising part of it, sorry, it's the last little. I know I'm kind of going on, but just to hit this last part. So ultimately, where this fundraising part comes in is that it can, once we've got these programs built and put together, they can be licensed out, temporary license to use. We can lease the software usage to pretty much anyone that's got any sort of interest in this. And it's a huge, huge thing in the techie world. Not everyone understands much about AI, and those who are like really good programmers, a lot of them won't even touch the AI stuff because it's like way too tedious, way too complicated. And Dewonk is already like up there with it. So we have a really good opportunity to create something very useful and relatively easily. He had talked about needing funding to get hardware to be able to put it together. He's got, from what he said, most of the software already. But the volunteer stuff would work out. So it would basically come down to, we could cut the ultimate cost to get this thing together by having people just, help promote it, help put it together, help tell people about it, help to use it once it's put together. And I wish Dewonk was here because he's a little better at explaining some of the fine details. I'm just trying to break it down so that anyone who watches this recording later can hopefully have a pretty good understanding of what we're getting at.
That's why I love you. That's why I love you. That was great. Jason and Dewonk have been working together. So basically, Dewonk's a data scientist, and he can figure out how to put together some special, unique design computer program that will crawl the internet and find out the best search terms that people use in their mind to think about CalExit. Once we have all that data, we can package it and sell it to a third-party vendor and raise money. So we're doing two things at once, as I understand it. Jason, correct me if I'm getting any of this wrong. I defer to you on this. What's the best way to say CalExit in all of our marketing, polling, everything? 2, free money. That's what I heard out of this. So let me turn it over to questions. If you have a question, if you could click the hand raise thing. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. Let me just open it up. Does anyone have a question? You can go ahead and unmute yourself. Question for Jason, high level thing. We'll have Dewonk. Yes, Matt Owen. Question for Jason.
Artificial intelligence, right? Built on the building blocks of programming languages that are oriented to be able to do that. My BS is in computer science from like the 1980s, and some things have changed, but basically AI, it uses the ability of applicative languages to be able to recursively program to where the computer is doing a lot of the programming work after a time. Okay. Applicative language versus what you're used to thinking of in computer languages. You usually think that you're commanding the computer to do something. Add 1 + 1, and you get a 2, right?
What is your question, Matt?
Well, my question is basically the use of applicative languages can now be done, I think, on like laptop size or even phone size. So that being the case, when the programming team is built, do you know if they're going to use like distributed programming so that they can, parcel the task out to a number of programmers on their devices, and then, have somebody else put the train together, so to speak, into the product?
Dewonk did say he could definitely use some help from other folks who know programming. And you are correct with that. That was what I was trying to get at with saying you have to tell a computer that 1 + 1 is 2, and that, you know, so on and so forth. And if you
I'm sorry,
don't
real quick.
tell it
If
that,
everyone, just real quick, if everyone could mute yourself. Someone's doing something or typing something. It's me creating a lot of background noise. If you could mute yourself, if you're not Matt or Jason. Sorry, Jason.
Yeah, that's the traditional type of programming language. The other applies a function to argument. Thus, for example, apply the plus function to the arguments 1 and 1. Apply the legal function to the arguments California separation. See what I'm saying? So you set that up as your parameter, and then you start farming out the bits that have to go into that, the subroutines that have to go into that. And you can build subroutines in an AI applicative language too. In fact, sometimes it's easier.
Yeah, so basically, to break it down for folks who don't have a bachelor's degree in computer science,
briefly,
and even though it's from the 80s, that's still something.
Because we have more questions.
The AI all comes down to when the difference between the AI and a regular computer program is, as you stated, the AI will do a lot of its own work. You don't have to use the program manually to go and do this thing. You just tell this AI program, hey, fetch, and it goes and fetches and comes back. The platform to run it on, once the program has been put together, it could be accessed and used from probably whatever device. That's my understanding. But for actually building it, he needs. We didn't go over exact specifications or anything, or the exact, price of what he thinks it might run. He would be the one to ask that, but he did make it clear that he would need a new piece of hardware that is capable.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. We're going to go to a new question from Mitchell. Mitchell, question? Mitchell, Mike, question for Jason? I have someone with Mike with their hand up. This is your chance.
Might need to unmute.
Mike, you need to unmute. Okay. Any other questions from anyone else? No? Okay, Jason?
Sorry. I was I'd enter the passcode to my phone. Yeah, my question was, have you done any training on this program already?
I have not. DeWonk is currently working on, I believe he said, his master's. He also holds a job as a computer programmer, a software engineer.
Okay. How deep is it so far? How many nodes?
I do not know. I don't know if he's started on it yet because he's been a little bit busy. As Marcus said, I'm not sure if everyone caught it, but he's in India. He's going to hopefully be coming back here to California for school sometime in the near future. But he, he's kind of on the exact opposite time schedule from us. So it makes it a little bit difficult to get in touch. But honestly, my main role with this project is going to be trying to help bring people to DeWonk that can help get this thing together, as well as helping to, discuss some of this stuff. But honestly, I'm not like I'm not super techie, and I will probably have zero hands-on with the actual software designing.
Okay. Do you know, and so there's no clue about what kind of hardware you would need?
Yeah, no, I wish DeWonk was here because he could probably tell you. I don't think it was like he didn't make it sound like it was anything that's like super fancy. Like he doesn't need some, warehouse that's got like 1,000 high grade computers tied together in one. All he needs is like one good new machine with certain capabilities so that he can put all of this software on here and do the thing, wave the magic
Okay.
wand.
My last question is, why didn't you go to GitHub? Why didn't you start like a formal project? This is
GitHub? I think I've heard of
yeah.
that before. GITHUB, yeah?
Yes.
I am going to write that down, and after the meeting, I'm going to send DeWonk a message, and I will mention that to him.
No, I mean, I'm sure he knows. I was just wondering, is there a reason why it's not like a GitHub and then like you're soliciting volunteers from the open source community? Is that like a strategy point?
We only really loosely talked about, he did say at one point.
We're going to move on.
Okay.
Okay.
He did say at one point that, having basically a decent sized staff and all of this. But I did point out to him that like Marcus has spent an immense amount of his own money putting up the initiative, printing out the initiatives from a California-based company, right? Who gave us a great deal, and it was, I mean, it's still like in a time of pandemic, like it's a hard thing, and there's been fundraising, and then what hasn't been fundraised has pretty much just come from Marcus, and so we can't really ask him for like $10,000 to hire a team of volunteers, or not a team of volunteers, but hire a team to do this, or $10,000 or whatever for a supercomputer that can build this AI. So he did say that it can be done with volunteer base and all of that, and mostly what I was thinking was that it's probably going to be volunteers from within the California independence movement, right? It doesn't mean that it necessarily has to be that way, though. So I hadn't really thought of GitHub. I will definitely, I thank you for bringing this up, because like I want to see this succeed. I'm just not sure how I can really help further it. But yeah, no, I'll at least look into it and see if it's viable for sure.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Mike. I try to keep the meetings. I only ask people to be here for 1 hour. Try to keep the meetings to 2 hours. Not trying to be a meanie. I love all of you guys. You know I do. Okay, moving on. Nicholas Wildstar. I'm going to skip ahead and just do all the housekeeping at the end. Nicholas Wildstar, are you there, sir? Nicholas? Okay.
What's up?
For about 5 minutes, we're working on the recall debate. Could you tell us how this was an idea that you pioneered? And as a board member, you helped provide strategic leadership. In fact, we're moving on this as a movement because of your leadership. What's happened with the recall debate? Where's it going? And what can we do as a movement to help make it happen? Nicholas Wildstar.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you each and every one of you for supporting the opportunity to be heard as a board member, as well as, of course, a potential candidate for governor of California. So what I introduced before was an idea to have Yes California sponsor a debate between all of the candidates that have declared their run for governor. And Mike Plumoff has actually spearheaded contact to all of the candidates for that effort. And I guess in response to the invitation, there's been one candidate so far that has accepted that response. So I'll put a link to the Wikipedia page to the 2020 California gubernatorial election, 2022 California gubernatorial election. It has the list of all of the candidates, so you guys can check them out if you'd like. But so far, again, there's only been one other candidate that has agreed to the debate other than myself. Excuse me. Many of the other candidates have responded either that they're not interested at all for whatever reason, don't want to lift the profile of other candidates involved, and I guess other reasons that they may have cited. But we also have candidates such as Chamath Palihapitiya, I guess his name is, the billionaire who used to work on Facebook. I don't know, I got blurry there. I'm not sure what happened. All right, anyways. But yeah, I don't know if he has officially declared, but he is on that Wikipedia page as a declared candidate because he put on his Twitter page that he wants to run against Newsom, and there's been news articles supporting that that declaration. So who knows if he is an official candidate or not, but behind the wall of secrecy and power, because he is a billionaire, it's been difficult to reach out to him and let it be known that we want him involved as well. So I think it would also, of course, increase the profile and bring more attention to Yes California. We want to bring more awareness to the CalExit movement. And I believe if we were able to get at least 3 candidates scheduled for the debate, then it'll hopefully get us some publicity, much needed publicity, to again talk about CalExit issues. And since it will be open to the public via StreamYard live broadcasting platform, we're going to have a Q&A session where it's going to be open to the public and they'll be able to ask questions. So we're waiting to hear back from the rest of the candidates just to confirm what date in particular we can get that locked in for. But as soon as we do, Marcus is going to be on that panel as far as moderators asking questions. I think there's 5 questions that'll be sent out to all of the candidates, and Marcus and the other moderator will choose 3 of the 5 to ask those candidates, all of the candidates involved. So if you have any questions, of course, you're welcome to ask, but that's what we've been working on so far.
All right,
go on. What's that?
Question for Nicholas about the recall debate. You can either put your hand up, or since we have a few people, you could just ask. Okay, Jason, what do you got to say about the recall debate, brother?
Yeah, so first of all, awesome progress. Second, I think personally my assessment was always that it would start with a few saying yes, and then gradually, as more say yes, the rest will go, oh, this is a viable thing. And now there's, more people over there attending that one than there are going to be attending this one. I guess I better go over there. Mm-hmm. So I would definitely encourage to keep reaching out and definitely give them another chance to consider it. once we've got a little more people. Are you really sure? I mean, I know you said no before, but now that it's like this, are you still sure, right?
Exactly.
Um,
Well, I
but the
myself,
other
as a
thing
candidate,
is, can we get a straight up advertisement, something that we can share around that talks about this in detail, what we're wanting from it, right? Are you a candidate who is going to run for governor of California? And would you like a platform that you don't have to pay for? You don't get interrupted by 10 minutes of commercials after speaking for 30 seconds, right? Is there something like that already? And if not, could we?
Okay, okay.
yes.
What?
Yes, I actually just sent the file to you. It's a graphic that was created for the debate, so it's there in the chat. But if anyone would like to receive it in particular, let me know and I'll have that emailed to you. But I myself, as a candidate, I put this graphic out there just to say, hey, yes, California is attempting to coordinate this debate. And if you support any of these candidates that are serious about representing, you and and wants to serve you as the next governor, then they need to be on this debate stage, since it looks as if the recall will be successful. I mean, the numbers just came out. They have over 1.3 million signatures, and we need 1.5 in order for it to be successful. That's by March 17th. So once that happens, it's on. That means there will be a special election scheduled sometime, hopefully early midsummer, in which case, again, any and all declared candidates pretty much are already in the front running. And that would include all of those candidates that are already out there on the campaign trail. So we've reached out to them. Again, I'm doing my best to kind of poke them on the side to say, hey, take your job seriously. And, challenge me on this debate stage if you really want to, speak about it and stand up for it. So we'll see what happens. But you're absolutely right. Hopefully, with more people agreeing to step up on the stage, that'll hopefully motivate those candidates that did turn it down before to accept the challenge,
Okay, all right. We got a few more questions, so we're going to go and knock them out. Marcus Poulos, a question about the recall debate to Nicholas Wildstar, Libertarian Republican candidate. Marcus Poulos.
So thank you for all of that, Nicholas. First of all, I want to, maybe you said it and I missed it. Who was the other candidate that has already said yes?
That's actually a good question. Let me look that up now. And hello to you, by the way. I thought you looked familiar, man. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah.
We've crossed paths a little bit.
Exactly.
But so while you're looking that up, it might be a good idea, and obviously for CalExit, it is good to have a gubernatorial candidate that's here, is a member of the board and all that, and that's great. But it might be wise for us if somebody other than Nicholas were to reach out and say, hey, thank you. I don't know if we've done that yet. That way they don't lose, get cold feet and back out. It might be wise for somebody to reach out and be like, hey, thank you for doing this. Help us get some pressure on these people. These are the kinds of things people want to talk about, blah, 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 and do that. This would be less for Nicholas, but more for, I guess, Marcus. Have we done that yet?
I'm going to refer that question to Nicholas. He's a Yes California Board of Directors member, and he's been the principal spearhead on this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing it myself, reaching out to them as myself per se. And Mike Plumoff, who's actually, the one that's handling outreach, he's the go-to person for Yes California that again is coordinating this, which I'm a part of, so if anything, I'm just playing my part again by going out there and advocating for the recall and challenging these candidates on their platform, you know? So what I also am suggesting that Yes California does, and I also believe Mike has already started doing, was reaching out to the, I guess, Republican Party and all of these other political parties here in the state to say, if you have candidates that are declared and would like to have them represent your party, have them show up on this debate stage, you know, or conservative media outlets like Fox News, you know, I tag them in my post saying, hey, why don't you put the word out there about this debate? You know, since it's a possibility we could have a recall here in the state of California, and you could have these candidates be heard. So,
Okay. Oh, sorry, we got a lot of questions. Mitchell, question for Nicholas Wildstar. Mitchell, question for Nicholas Wildstar.
Do you mean me again, Marcus?
Yes, Mike. Sorry. Mike, sorry.
Sorry. So from what I know for debates, often the questions are negotiated beforehand. And most candidates won't enter into a debate unless they're fairly certain about what the questions are going to be, so they have an opportunity to prepare. Would you think it's a good idea to perhaps try to entice people to join the debate more if you could sell them on at least coming to sit down to negotiate the questions, kind of like a soft sell?
Nice.
Good idea. Well, that's actually what we've done already by letting the candidates know that Yes California will be giving them 5 questions to prepare to answer for. And during the debate, 3 of those 5 questions will then be asked. So they have the opportunity to prepare answers for all of those questions. And then, you know, on a debate stage, it'll be chosen which one of those questions are asked. So a little bit of what you're asking, what you're talking about, but since again, you know, Yes California has particular questions that they want asked. Marcus, you know, spoke on that, I guess, in the last meeting. So if they have specific questions that they want answered, those will be the ones asked first, and then after that, it'll go into the Q&A session with the audience. But to mark really quickly, I put a link in the chat box. You can click on that. The other and all of the candidates are there, but the candidate you are talking about is Dakota Vaughn. Has accepted the invitation. So
just to answer Mike's question, so we haven't done that. Wildstar's completely correct, but we haven't sent an invite saying, here's the 3 questions you're going to be asked.
Right.
And I think Mike's pointing out, like, maybe if we send the invite and we go, do you like dogs that hang out with cats? Are you for the, you know, you just tell them straight up, here's the 3 things you're going to be asked, right up in the invite. That might, it's an idea.
Well, yeah, I guess what we had agreed was once all of the candidates agreed on which date, I guess, whatever, since we're all trying to coordinate that as well. Because I think this Dakota person said March 1st. So I'll have to check my calendar and see if I'll be available that date. But if all of the candidates can get locked down on one date and time in particular, then that's when the confirmation email will be sent out with those questions, you see? Because you guys are, I guess you're still going to ask the Facebook group as to which 5 questions should you remember us discussing that before?
I do remember the group had a meeting and we came to that decision. We decided as a group. I'm wondering now, based upon what Mitchell said, if that was a mistake. And if perhaps we should reissue the invite and come up, Yes California would come up with 3 official questions and we just tell them right up front, here's the 3 questions. Because we only got so much response, right? So this is, how do we get a better response? Maybe if we try it differently. I know the committee said we're not doing that, but if we need a better response, we need to think about how to re-engineer this car.
Well,
Yeah, I just think these
my
guys
my
flaky.
thought on the matter, my thought on the matter was just that you know, people want to go to a debate that they feel that they have an opportunity to essentially look good. They want a question that's great for them. So you know,
Well, you
if
think that it's open to that possibility to begin with. They're just
no, I mean, they
saying
won't
no.
go to the debate if that question's not there. It just doesn't make any sense for them to show up. Nobody wants to get caught in a gotcha. So they want a question that is absolutely going to make them look good, and that's usually why they negotiate everything before they ever put a camera on.
Yeah. Well, some of these guys, again, they've already responded, and one of their answers was that they just wanted to hold off on any type of debates or anything like that until the 22 election. So they're not even recognizing the recall at all because they don't, I guess, think it's going to be successful or whatever the case may be. But once it is, that's why, again, yes, California has an opportunity to jump ahead on this, is because that recall election is going to come up quick, and then there's going to be debates falling out of the sky at that point. So they're going to be accepting invitations from independent organizations, sending out invitations, asking them to join a debate stage or a city hall conference or whatever the case may be. But you may have, it's happened before in other elections that I've been in, where candidates just simply said no, because it wasn't going to garner enough attention for them. I ran for mayor of Fresno. The current mayor that just got elected didn't go to any debates except for the high profile ones. So
I don't even want to mention his name. He's a terrifying man. We're going to go to a question from Matt Owen. Matt Owen, you had a question specifically for Nicholas? Nicholas Wildstar question, Matt Owen?
Yes, I'm wondering if we've reached out to the gubernatorial candidates, either of the Green Party or Peace and Freedom, because let me tell you, if I was PFP's gubernatorial candidate, I would accept the invitation in a New York heartbeat.
That's good to know. They haven't declared yet. If they have a candidate, then that's what we're saying. We're pretty much working off the Secretary of State's website that has all of the, declared candidates that have full paperwork, and then the Wikipedia page where candidates have made a formal declaration through media. So even Kevin Faulconer, the former mayor of San Diego, he's been talking about it. He formed an exploratory committee, just like John Cox has, but neither one of them has officially declared. They said they're pretty much waiting until the 2022 election. So even if the recall is successful, we're successful in getting the signatures first, then that's when they'll throw their full weight money and influence and all of that stuff behind their campaign. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. All right, we're gonna move. Let me check if there's new questions from anyone. No? Okay. We're gonna go to the last section, and then I'm gonna go to housekeeping. Nicholas Wildstar, you have been the most successful. I'm sorry, Matt, did you have one more question? Matt Owen, do you have another question?
Hi. Well, I was gonna text it, but now that you mention it, actually, what's that doing there?
Quick question, brother. Trying to get on to the next section.
Yes. Well, just to note that if I were PFP's gubernatorial candidate, I would accept, of course, because I'm also in this movement, very much so, the invitation to debate on whether Governor Newsom should be recalled or not. So let me see what I can move at PFP.
Okay.
Nice.
Please make it happen. Thank you, Mike. Or Matt.
Okay.
You still got your hand up though.
Okay. Yeah, Matt, if you could take your hand up, down. Okay, so Right. So let me just throw in a couple points. This recall debate is a good example of the kind of projects I want to pursue here and what we're going to be having. Even if you hate the idea of the recall, even if you hate the idea of the recall debate, I'm very proud of what we've done here. So what this started was a board member, Wildstar, said, hey, here's a good idea. He brought it to a board meeting and we said, yes, we'll do it. Then we had a recorded committee meeting where everybody who was at that board meeting and wanted to be part of it could participate. That was the big, intense debate. We recorded it. At the end of that meeting, we had action items. And then we sent out an email to everybody who agreed to be in the debate. So they were part of a team in the email. After we had those notes worked out, we did action. They actually made a flyer, called people, got results. It wasn't everything we wanted. So what did we do? We came back to this board and talked about how to make it better. So you bring up an idea. You find people who want to work with you. Well, I don't like that idea. Then don't join. But if you like this, jump in. Then we have meetings and committees and we record those. Then we have action items. Then we take steps. Then we meet back again. This is the process I want to do. I think it's been executed perfectly. No, that doesn't mean the results are always there. Look, in activism, you take your best shot and you see what happens. Doesn't always work out. But I will need to commend that the leadership in this process that Nick has spearheaded, fantastic, and the perfect example of what I want all of us to be doing. Last note, Hannah Miyamoto is not available to be a moderator for this debate. I have recommended Sue Hirsch to moderate it with me. Sue did podcasts in the past. She did a good job. That's if we don't get big enough candidates where we can't get Tom Elias. Tom Elias was the reporter who literally got the recall in 2003 to happen. And I talked to him. He agreed to host the Yes California recall debate. That means the guy who made 2003 recall part of this debate too. That would be huge. He said if we get the candidates. So I'm going to stop there and go to the next subject. And just for a few minutes, Nick, for about 5 minutes, you've done really well at getting a lot of people to sign the initiative for CalExit. After Biden, Trump's down, Biden's here. You're getting hundreds of people to sign this thing. What exactly are you saying? Because I've been with you. We've gone to liberal areas, conservative areas. We've met liberals in conservative areas. Some people hate the recall and sign the petition. Some people love the recall and sign the petition. But you always mention the petition as something totally separate from the recall thing. So I think the recall just gets them to the table. They either want to argue with you or they want to give you a hug. And then you go, oh, here's this other idea. What is it that you say to get liberals and conservatives from the Bay Area to the Central Valley to the Los Angeles to all say yes after Donald Trump lost the election? Nicholas Wildstar.
Absolutely. Well, I mainly just talk about the key issues that California, Yes, California stands for, smaller government, less taxes, decentralization, less government control. And when I hint on those things, then people, it resonates with them and they are excited about the opportunity to explore that. And that's how I introduced the Yes California petition to them, is I let them know that this is an opportunity for us to just research California independence and how it would benefit us. And of course, the steps about how to make that happen if we were to choose to do so. And a lot of people are just open to that possibility in itself, since they see it as just simply an opportunity to do a little research, find out the plus and minuses or whatever the case may be, and then have the argument be made as to why we should make this happen. So I pinpoint, of course, one thing that resonates with us all also: money and taxes. So when I talk about California being the 5th largest economy in the world, but being the highest taxed in the entire country, then they're like, okay, yeah, you're absolutely right. Because if we reduce some of those taxes, then of course we're able to move up that economic ladder. And a lot of people understand that simple fact. And if you can explain that to them, whether they're conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, whatever the case may be, you can connect people from across the political aisle. And that's exactly what the CalExit petition has an opportunity to do. I think, of course, because of that, CalExit should definitely officially endorse the recall for Gavin Newsom, because if you stand for, small government and less taxes and police reform and gun rights for all, then these are all of the reasons why we, the people, are demanding to recall Gavin Newsom. And they also, again, fall in line with the values of Yes California. So if Yes California were to officially endorse the recall effort, that would possibly give it an opportunity to get some publicity, since there aren't too many organizations out there that are backing publicly backing the recall, other than the Republican Party, which is going through an identity crisis right now. And the media is trying to drag them through the mud by saying, they're all white supremacists and, far right extremists, whatever the case may be, and that everybody behind the recall are those people. And that's not true. We could stand up for all of the rest of the people that are being silenced by this mainstream media outfit to silence us and to drive the narrative, because they want to control the outcome of this recall. It is an uprising of we the people, and we're doing it the right way. So we should stand by that and again stamp our approval on that. But when I'm out there pushing for the recall signatures, that's how I'm able to pull people in. It's an attention getter, and then I just bring it home with the Yes California petition, which they happily sign every time.
Just to be clear, Yes California, I hear what you're saying. Yes California has not officially endorsed the recall. What we have said is that we want to be open to everybody. Nicholas does not say that you have to endorse the recall to sign the CalExit thing. Sorry, Nick, I got to be clear, or people are going to watch.
Absolutely correct.
Get 50,000 phone calls tomorrow. So he didn't say you got to back the recall to back CalExit. Never said that. He introduces them as totally separate subjects. He says, hey, we have all this money and we're so taxed and we have the worst of everything. What about keeping our money here so that we can pay for our schools? People know, and then they go, I don't know if I'm about secession. He goes, whoa, we're just studying the idea. Is it how bad is that to study about how to keep our money here and pay for ourselves? And I've seen liberals and conservatives sign on that alone. And yes, that was after Trump lost the election. Is that a fair summary, Nicholas?
Absolutely. And with other states like Texas pushing for the secession, I mean, with them having a referendum being introduced, as well as Washington now. You got the state of Washington, two lawmakers in Washington pushing to separate Washington into two separate states. So there's a lot of independent movements out there. We can again capitalize on that by saying California has always been behind this. Actually, another state that was in lead with this effort, but didn't get the amount of attention that it deserved, back in 2016 or 2014, whatever the case may be. But yes, it's absolutely a way for us to garner more attention just to the public, because if you look at the pictures, taken, you got people from all walks of life.
Yes, diverse.
Just one specific group, and they're willing to consider it. And it supports the Zogby, what is it? The Zogby polling as well, and all of this information that's out there. So if it's more publicized that California, Yes California has a petition out there right now to explore California independence, then we could get even more signatures, I'm sure.
Questions to Nick about how do you get the public to back the idea of CalExit, and perhaps studying the idea rather than saying you're full on for it. I'm going to go to participants. If you have your hand up, I will call on you. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next section. Okay. No hands up. Nick, last comments about talking to folks and getting them to sign on to studying CalExit.
I would say the one thing is don't be afraid to ask, you'll have people that are passing you by, but if you don't ask, you don't know who will stop and sign. And I've learned that every time where there's been people where there's a crowd of people and it's an opportunity for me to, of course, grab somebody. So I'll just ask each and every one. And at some point, I'll even have a line of people that are ready to sign on the dotted line and, support the petition. So just don't be afraid to ask. And of course, speak in a language that everybody can understand. If you start talking about complex issues that are argumentative, and arguable, then and controversial, or whatever the case may be, then that may turn them off. But if you can at least put it in their ear to where they're saying, I haven't heard of that before, but I'll look it up. I've heard that before also. Then you can refer them to the website, yescalifornia.org, and let them know they can print it out, sign it, and send it in right there at home.
Yeah. Okay, we got a couple questions. Just trying to make sure we get everybody in. Mike Beecher. Mike Beecher, question about how you sell people on asking to explore secession, not necessarily endorse it, for Nicholas Wildstar. Mike Beecher, question for Nicholas Wildstar. How do you get people to explore secession?
Well, this isn't so much of a question, but I was just going to bring up a point, something that probably most people don't think of nowadays, which is just simple public speaking, which is you basically format a series of slides or a PowerPoint or whatever. I think Nicholas would know what to put in those slides. He sounds like he has experience at Contact. And do a slide presentation under such a title like what would it look like if California were its own nation, or some other kind of attention-getting thing, to have people show up and listen to you talk for as long as they would. And if it's successful enough, you could probably even charge a head cover of $5 or something small. And that's a simple way to kind of educate the populace as far as putting the word out there. I know it's not pretty fashionable to do kind of such a brick and mortar thing, but it's fairly effective and the space is wide open.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, people respond more to visuals than they do to anything else. I actually was talking to Marcus about getting a flyer together. That way, when I'm out doing the tabling, at least people can grab some, something to research on. But yeah, you're absolutely right. If Yes California put together some presentation or something like that, one of these Zoom meetings, charge the $5 cover or something, a way to generate some more donations and to educate the public on the benefits of California independence, then I think that would definitely draw more people to it as well. So we could
I was gonna
make that happen.
I like the Zoom meeting idea, but I was actually speaking more to doing a literal presentation in real life. I understand it might be difficult to draw a crowd at this time, but
yeah, that's the only thing, man.
Yeah, but drawing the crowd has a value because there's a sunk cost. They showed up. They're probably, you understand?
Yes.
So,
Okay.
but yeah, maybe what you should do is when you're out there signing is print a little flyer that allows them to come to a speaking event. So they could take that with them if they really like the topic.
Okay. Okay, we're just going to make sure to get everyone in here. Question from Matt Owen about how to reach out and get people to sign on the CalExit petition to say, do we just want to study secession? Matt Owen, question for Nicholas Wildstar.
Well, what you say depends a lot on who you say it to, who you ask. I mean, you've enjoyed terrific success asking a diverse group of folks. But you know, there are always, you know, various audiences. Just for example, if I bring this to the PFP, you know, I have to ask in line with what I know about the party. It's like comrades, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If I take it to the reservation, which Return California has, there's a certain way to ask, and they're experts at that, and they've gotten a good response. Got a much better response with the indigenous folks than they have in certain other organizations in our movement.
Matt, is there a question?
So doesn't it depend a lot on who you're asking?
Well, yeah, what you're talking more so is like a specific focus-based marketing, I guess. When you're targeting just one specific group, then yeah, you would want to tailor that message to that group. So if I was talking to other libertarians, I would talk to them about government, anti-establishment type of principles to excite them to want to sign, versus me standing outside of Walmart, where anybody and everybody is coming into the store. So that's what I'm doing, more so general promoting to a general audience. And that's what I'm coming to find draws them in. It's just when you're speaking that common language and just speaking about generalized issues that a lot of people can agree on, like less taxes. That brings in almost everybody, no matter what your political affiliation or whatever the case may be. So I'm just finding benefits in speaking that type of language versus, again, what you're talking about, making it more focus-based.
Okay. All right. Thank you both. Really appreciate that. I want to say hello to Leon Kachatorian. Mr. Kachatorian, thanks for coming out. Appreciate you. Also want to point out that California has our awesome culture because so many people have immigrated here, and they have brought their culture and kept it intact. And we have created a pot of many different cultures, and we've taken the best aspects, and I'm super proud to do that. Bye, John. Love you. Love you. Love you. Okay. We're going to move on to housekeeping. And this is the 1 o'clock hour. I know it's 2 hours. I'd only ask you to stay for one. You've already done it. If you're willing to, I'm going to go into some major housekeeping issues about the direction of the board. You don't have to stay. This also starts our public comment period, where we can take comments from the lay public. So Leon, you're not a board member, but if you have something to say, just raise your hand.
I know Orrin Heatley, is he for Nicholas? Did Orrin Heatley sign up for giving you a debate or the debate line? He's done a lot for Recall Gavin. Orrin Heatley and Mike Netter. What about that?
We have not reached out to them to help promote the event. So that's actually a great suggestion. I don't know if he has declared himself as a candidate or if he has plans to, but as of today, to my knowledge, he has not. So we'll see what happens, of course, over the next few months. But in the meantime, he's just more so focusing on getting the word out about the recall. But that's definitely a good suggestion about also contacting him to see if he would put the word out about the debate also.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leon. Leon, please tell all fellow people out there in California, you're welcome to come to our meetings and ask questions.
I was directed here by my friend Sam Cheney. I think Sam should be governor of California. What do you think, Sam? He's very outspoken and he kicks, you know what?
Well, then let's commend Sam. Sam, thank you for telling fellow Californians that this is open to them. And thank you for bringing people on the outside in. Sam's doing what we all need to do.
Spread the word, and yeah, I hate the government, so I'll never work for them.
Okay. Thank you, Leon. Thank you, Sam. We're going to move on to housekeeping. Really appreciate it. Thank you everybody for being here. I'm just going to start covering some of the boring stuff. You are welcome to stay. You don't have to. I have to do this. Blah, blah, blah.
Marcus, real quick, did you want this one clipped into 2 recordings? The
No,
closed and the open?
This is still part of the official board meeting. I'm basically I got to get some housekeeping out. I need about 20 minutes and then we'll stop and do a more official public section. I'm just trying to be a man of my word saying, hey, it's 1 o'clock. I could speak. Okay. Let's people speak. So thanks, Jason. I really appreciate you and lean on you a lot. Wouldn't have been able to make it this far or survive without you and and many others in a lot of the officer corps. And I got to say to everybody, I couldn't pull this off without you. 40 people said, sure, Marcus. And that gave me the courage to do this. There's been some opposition. I mean, there's been some nasty, mean, rage-filled people who said, hell no to my offer. And yeah, that hurt. But when 40 other people said, no, I feel you. Boy, you just keep going. I think the biggest thing I need to say right now for housekeeping is everybody, please watch Nate Silver. I'll post the comment out. Nate Silver is one of the most respected voices in politics, period. You don't have to agree with him. You can think he's a nasty person. Fine. In America, when he says something, that's called legit. This week, he interrupted his own people on the 538 podcast to go, we should probably talk about what if California leaves because they can't put up with the Republican Party that can't win majority elections telling them what to do. That's huge. I cannot emphasize this enough. We said that for years in CalExit and nobody backed us up. And now the guy who determines what's legitimate to talk about just said it 3 days ago. And he said it within weeks of us, Yes California, saying that. Coincidence? We just happened to jump on this thing and then just coincidentally, Nate Silver just happens to come to the same thing. No. The time is now. Secession will be happening. Even though Trump's not elected, it's going to happen. We're in the air. That's why we're saying the same thing. And Nate Silver, who we have no touch with, says literally the same thing. And I was talking to my dad today, and he's military, and he doesn't really like CalExit. But I got to tell you a story real quick. He goes, I support you because you're my son. I'm in the military. I can't support CalExit. And I said, if I could ask everybody to mute themselves, just because I'm getting a little bit of feedback, you could click the mute. So I said, I'm not asking people to endorse CalExit anymore. What I'm saying is to 40 people, half of you are new. January 6th, there was a militia storming the Capitol. Do you really think this thing is stable? And do you think that if you live in earthquake country, you shouldn't have a preparedness plan? You can think CalExit is not the right idea. That's fine. But you dumb and you insane if you think I don't need to prepare for anything, we don't need to have a plan, let's just assume there will never be an earthquake or any problems ever. No one does that. No one does that. We have now entered the realm where for years it was you're crazy to talk about CalExit. Well, now it's you're crazy if you think we shouldn't be. Didn't say you have to endorse it. I said, Chuck Todd on Meet the Press a month ago said, America looks like a failed Latin state. Then Politico had an article where they said America looks like a failed Latin state. They said that a month before the militia stormed the Capitol. They had no idea that was going to happen. MSNBC and Politico, top 2 news organizations, very respectable. America looks like a failed country. And then a month later, they had a militia storm the Capitol for the first time in 150 years. You are crazy if you think it's crazy to have this conversation. Sane people now realize we should have at least a plan for what happens. If you agree with that, I'd ask you to join the Yes California Board of Directors. You don't have to believe in CalExit. What you have to believe is that sane people have plans when they think something may not work perfectly forever. You know we could survive on our own. whether we have to or not, you can just say, hey, I don't like that. But look at what Nick Wildstar's doing. He's asking minorities who probably voted for Biden, shouldn't we look into this? Is it wrong for us to study? And they go, no, it's not wrong. Of course you should look into this. Of course you should be informed. Of course you should have a study. Of course you should prepare. And also all those people who voted against Trump and don't like Biden, they're terrified. Okay, they saw America operate in a way they never saw it before. So they're not sure that patient's going to get up off the table, even if you just brought in a brand new surgeon and a whole new staff of surgeon people. Secession's going to happen. The Yes California motto, and I would encourage every single one of you board members to ask everybody you know this. We're really crazy to say it's time to have a conversation. If you just think it's reasonable to have a conversation, please join. That's all we're saying. When I said that to my father, who's in the military, he got real quiet and had no rebuttal. That never happens with that guy. So this is where we're at. Moving on. Yes, California is, thank you, Leon, thank you. Yes, California is positioning itself to be taken seriously. Now, we are reaching out to conservatives in California. We're a lefty group. Why? Because California's lefty. And we're all about California values. However, 25% of California voted conservative. We cannot talk about California values and inclusion and say, screw 25% of the population. Who cares what they think? You can't say I support inclusion and do that. So yes, we're left. Yes, we're progressive. 25% of California is conservative. We're not telling them to leave. We're saying we want you right along with us every step as we go there. You are included. Your voice matters. Now, not everyone agrees with you, but at Yes California, we're going to include you. Secondly, we've also positioned ourselves to be the only group that's trying to reach out to conservatives in America. We've taken a lot of flack for that from fellow liberals. Why are you even talking to Trump supporters? Why are you talking to red state people? For this reason. There's only one way to secede legally, through consent of the states. So you have to get red states to say, yes, I'm okay with California leaving, period. We can have a debate on if it's Texas versus white or a larger process, 35 to 25 states. But if you're not pursuing some place of legal secession, then you are by definition pursuing illegal secession. Hey, I'm all about seceding. I'm all about seceding. Have you talked about getting votes? No. It doesn't look like you're actually serious about a legal process. And if you're not serious about legal process, why should you be believed, especially now, as being committed to peaceful secession? You mentioned nothing about the law. You're not talking about that at all. I hate all those red state Americans. I'm not even going to talk to them. Well, then clearly you're not interested in getting votes. And then clearly you're not interested in a legal path. And then clearly you're not interested in peaceful. Peaceful comes with following the law. The law says you must, not should, must get 25 states to maybe more. We're positioning ourselves to be the only CalExit group, and we're the largest here, with connections to 25 red states, because we think secession's imminent. And we want to be seen as, yes, we're lefty, but we respect our conservatives here in California. So conservatives in America, you can take us at our word that we want to have a peaceful separation and that we're going to work with you. Frankly put, no one else in the CalExit movement's willing to do that. They hate the right so much, they won't even do it. I understand that, and I sympathize, but this is real. You're going to secede, you're going to get the votes, or you're not actually serious. Or worse, you're talking about something other than legal. No, Yes, California is not interested in anything other than a legal path to secession. End of story. We think you can't be taken seriously if you're not actually trying to get those votes. And we think you can't be taken seriously on that if you're not trying to reach out to those people. So that's why we're reaching out to conservatives here, to get credibility, to reach out to conservatives in America, because we think secession is imminent. And we know that has upset some of our members. We are a lefty group, but we're serious. My favorite story is Malcolm X. Malcolm X asks for funding from the KKK. Because he secretly loved the KKK? No. because he knew poor black people didn't have any capital and only rich white farmers did. And so he went to people who wanted African Americans out to get money to fund his movement because he was dead serious. Malcolm X did that. We're following his model. In order to do that, I want to raise the profile of the Yes California Board of Directors. So we are going to constantly be inching up to more professional corporate looking status. I've talked to Christine, Mitchell, Camby's Mostafizadeh. Camby's has given me incredible advice on how to do this. Jason has always been there providing information, and Rabbi Stephen Axelman has also provided some great details. We're trying to get more corporate. So if you have ideas on how to make this more corporate, more professional, more looking, I want those, and we're going that direction. I can't promise it's going to happen overnight, but that's where we're going. To that end, we are going to start implementing a Robert's Rules of Order starting next week. I know I don't fully get it either. Jason's teaching me, but we're going to start trying to move in the direction because it gives us two things. One, it ensures everybody on the board gets treated fairly. No personality issues. Everybody gets a voice. Two, it makes us look like we're serious. So I am committed to all the board members having power and being like, this is theirs. We're going to institute Robert's rules in order to do that and to appear more professional. We're also going to start having votes on everything by the board. So as we bring on new people, they're going to start being voted in. I still have total control over this, and I can supersede the board's vote. The reason I say that is because some of you said, don't make an official board, because what happens is you get this panel and then people go behind the scenes and start lobbying board members to vote out another person. We've seen that in 3 separate CalExit organizations. The moment you start having it where it's a vote, people know that, and then they start lobbying to start shutting down ideas and kicking out people and trash talking. Because I have total control, that will never happen. I won't let it. You'll be asked to leave before you do that, and I'll figure out who you are. However, I don't want to do that. I want consensus. I want us to, not everybody's going to agree. I get it. Some of you are going to be pissed off by what we said we're doing. But my goal, and you can look at me, and I'm asking you to believe me. I'm looking right in the camera. My goal is that we have 80% approval by the board on any decision we make. That is my personal goal. I am being honest and transparent and telling you I have the right to override those decisions. But I'm also telling you, and I think those of you who know me, I would never want to do that, and I would use that as a last option. My goal is consensus, 80% approval, and the board votes on everything, and I just rubber stamp. That's where I want to go, and I want us to look professional. The reason I don't do official board votes is talk to people in the movement. There's been 3 other groups who had boards. Half of our movement is made of people who left those groups because of the vote jockeying. I would also ask the board that I want to change the name of the board of directors for this reason. We've been running Google Analytics, and now I looked at the Urban study. I looked up the Deloitte study on nonprofits. There is no upper limit of a board of directors. However, most people are used to a board of directors having no more than 13 people max. So when we say board of directors and we're already at 41, people are like, what's that? Now, I looked at the official research from the top people who study boards. There is no limit on the number of boards. They just said, hey, make it work. So what I would like to do, though, is simply so that we don't have people raising eyebrows, I'm asking the board if any would be horrified if we change it to Board of Trustees. Board of Trustees. A Board of Trustees is essentially the same thing. It's just something that corporations have, and you can get a larger amount of people. So purely for a branding reason, everybody's going to have the same power, same thing, same organization. What I sold you on is exactly the same. I'm just asking for a name change. I'm going to ask for comments. And what I'm looking for is, are you horrified if we change it from Board of Directors to Board of Trustees, where you have the same powers and it's the exact same organization? I want to give a chance for everybody to voice their concerns if they're deeply concerned. So I'm going to turn it over for questions now and ask. This is kind of open-ended. Does anybody is horrified with the idea of changing it just so that we don't bat an eye and we can keep moving? This is your chance to say, I am super horrified. You tricked me, Marcus. That's misleading. It's more about just making it work so we can get this bigger. Anyone horrified? Now is your chance to call me out on record. It'll go right out to the public. I don't like that. You told me something else. This is your chance. I won't contradict you. Okay, I'm not saying anything, so I'm going to assume that's roughly okay. Moving.
Oh, Marcus, I was just going to add one thing. There's another common role, which is called a stakeholder, and you can have a board of stakeholders.
Nice. Okay. Stakeholders is also an option. Let me just ask anybody right now. Is anybody horrified by the term board of stakeholders? I'm just asking so we can continue the debate. I'll follow up. This is your chance to come on and go, no, it can't be called stakeholders. Okay, I'm not seeing a huge pushback. Okay. So we're going to either be moving the title to Board of Trustees or Board of Stakeholders. We'll look more at that. Everyone seems to be okay with that. We're going to be implementing Robert's Rules of Order. I'm leaning on Jason to help me out. Okay, quick question from Matt. Yes, Matt. Matt Owen.
Since you asked, well, universities have boards of trustees. Boards of stakeholders, that's more like a JPA or sitting around the table at a Sizzler. With a bunch of juicy steaks. So you're all holding it.
Okay.
Yeah, universities have board of trustees, so I think a remarketing along those lines might be preferable to making out like we're a joint powers authority or something like that with stakeholders and all that sort of thing.
Okay, good point. Good point. I'm also going to start asking people to dress up. Now, hold on. You can wear an activist shirt. If you're part of an activist group, you can wear an activist shirt. We're an activist organization, and eventually I'm going to get everybody Yes California shirts. So if you're part of an activist group, all I'd ask is that the shirt is nice and clean. So what I want to do is kind of have it quasi U.S. Military forces. By that I mean you either dressed up like me or you're wearing an activist shirt. In the military, they have people in fatigues, and then they have people all dressed up and all look nice and neat. So it's not a hard thing. I'm telling you, we're going to do that. We're going to start doing Robert's Rules. We're going to start implementing more professional behavior. We're going to start acting more corporate. We're going to start improving our look. No one's going to get cut. Everything's fine. I'm just announcing this and letting you know we're moving that direction. Is there any problems with that from anyone at all? Now's your time to say, Marcus, I don't like that. I'm a board member. You have to hear me out. I'm really bothered by something you said in the last few minutes. This is your chance for someone to say, whoa, no, I don't like that. Okay, let me check the participants. I'm not saying anything. Okay. Matt, you have a quick question?
Well, once I'm in a situation where I can be sure that I can put on the suit, I may be putting on the suit. Okay, I got to get situated first, straight up.
I hear you, and we have people who also can't do it. You're not who I'm talking about. I'm not a meanie, and I'm not going to force roll this over. I'm saying in general. Some of you already come to me. I love you. You're not who I'm talking about. I'm just saying in general. I want us to do this. We're going to do it where we get everybody to go along. Nobody's going to get cut. And if we start not doing Robert's Rules right, that's fine. We're just going to keep at it till we get it right. I'm not saying it's got to be this hard and fast. I'm letting y'all know we're going this way. We're going this way. So everybody knows where we're going. As we get there. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that?
Into the yes shirt that I've got, if I can find it.
I'm going to start getting everybody yes shirts, and I'm going to ask everybody to at least, in fact, if you have a yes shirt, can you hold it up?
I'm not sure where it is.
Yes shirts.
I'm not sure where it is right now.
Okay. Finally, we have WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a communication platform on top of email. I've been emailing all of you, but I put everybody in the BCC column so you don't get this blog of mass email, but it lists out who are the other people if you want to talk to them. So our two forms of communication are the email from me and the WhatsApp. So some people love WhatsApp, some people don't like WhatsApp. I'm going to stop and turn it to the group. Do you like WhatsApp? Do you think there's a better communication platform? This is your chance to say your piece. By the way, we're currently using WhatsApp, but I want to leave that open for discussion. So please raise your hand, and I will call on you if you have an opinion about a different application program. I know Rabbi Stephen Axelman sent out a article on different platforms. So yes, Matt, what would you like to say?
Well, just basically, I have been using WhatsApp before you were using WhatsApp, so I can vouch for it. Okay, I put the Californianos on there, and it works very, very well. I know that John is partial to the Gilded platform. I don't know that it's as versatile or maybe more versatile or something like that, but I know from my own experience that WhatsApp definitely fills the bill. So kudos for selecting WhatsApp.
Anyone else? You could just unmute yourself. Do you have an opinion on WhatsApp? Do you hate it? Do you love it? Do you think it's
Right
better?
here, Marcus.
Sam.
WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, and we know Facebook is actively censoring, so therefore, boo to WhatsApp.
Do you have an alternative that you prefer?
Well, there are a lot of alternatives. Signal, Telegram. I like just old-fashioned email, honestly. They can't censor that, or they have a lot harder time censoring old-fashioned email. So those are Telegram, Signal, or old-fashioned email.
Okay. Other opinions from board members? Okay, we'll table that debate. Right now it's WhatsApp. Not everyone's happy with it. I get it. You do not have to. Mike teacher.
Yeah. Technically speaking, if you're talking about going more corporate, you can use anything you want on it, on top of it, but you have to use emails because they're just simply the most reliable. Everybody has one. It's the most universally accepted. It's standard.
We are always going to keep emails. I'm always going to send emails. Emails is the backbone. I love emails. I was told, Marcus, it's 2021. We need to use something hip and more interactive and et cetera. So there's always going to be emails. People said they wanted a more routine communication, lively, sort of modern thingy. And WhatsApp seemed to just get out there and people were easy getting on it. So we're always going to have emails. Emails will always be there. Is there another app we should have as our primary discussion hub? Is anybody, any suggestions? Yes, Matt.
Hang on. Like I say, I've been using WhatsApp. John has been using Gilded. It's a good thing to have, put your eggs in more than one basket. Email definitely is out there. And again, I also agree that we should have ready Signal and Telegram channels in case Facebook does shut down our WhatsApp. Okay, so we would do well not to put all our all our eggs in one basket.
Okay. Any other comments? This is your time to say, hey, I hate WhatsApp. It's got to be this instead, or I'm cool with it or whatever. Let me check. Okay, I don't see any hands raised. I'm going to move on. And say, yes.
Well, I could just speak to my personal preference. My personal preference is to just simply receive a weekly email as far as what's been happening or what's been going on, and then checking in another source, as opposed to, if you understand what I'm saying, like to catch up.
Yeah.
I generally have trouble with that because the emails are so long. But so kind of they have to be like, how should I put it, pared down? And then whatever the application is, because you're always going to have a certain amount of non-participation, no matter what application you choose. Use WhatsApp, use Slack, whatever you choose, there's going to be a certain number of people who simply don't use the app or never turn it on or never check in or never learn how to use it. And often these things have a high learning curve. So to keep it as simple as possible and to maximize participation, probably just a wrap up, a simple, short wrap up email so that people can dial back in would probably be the best situation. So it also kind of gets people to deal with the technological hurdle of whatever the thingy is that is chosen, even if it's Facebook.
Jason.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding was that the reason why we're even using the WhatsApp in addition to the emails and the Zoom meetings and everything is mainly for the unofficial in-between times. Oh, hey, look, I found this article. Like Nicholas, I posted an article up on the WhatsApp for you and was like, hey, this dude's a little bit like, he comes across to someone who's middle ground like myself as a little too radical of right as far as messaging, but ultimately what he's saying is pretty much the same thing we're saying. So, find it interesting. Here's a point that, and it's something that doesn't need to, it doesn't need to tie up the official communication. It doesn't need to make the email chain a whole other, thing longer. It's mainly just for our like chit chat, whereas the email has always been there and always been like that every was it Friday night, Saturday, when you send out the agenda for Sunday's meeting, right? I go straight over to my email and I look over it and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. And it gets me thinking about all the things we're going to discuss. And, then I can show up a little more prepared. But I'm personally not attached to whatever we use. I mean, I use several different messaging apps. I have one that I use specifically for chatting with my friend in Finland. I have the WhatsApp for, the group, as well as, DeWonk and Lewis both being overseas. Anytime I want to chat with them, it's a little bit easier. Nicholas, much love, brother.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, is that the correct kind of interpretation for what we're talking about as far as this secondary?
Yes.
Okay.
Email is the standard form of communication. When I started sending out emails, 10 different people called me and go, oh, that's so archaic and old and you got to do something new and hot. So I did WhatsApp and people jumped in and they seemed to be happy. But then some people were like, WhatsApp's the worst possible option. We need to do X. So I'm cool with emails. Emails was always going to be there. People wanted a more discussion thing. We did WhatsApp. Almost everybody's there. But there are some people who think, horrible thing, shouldn't do it, do something else. And so we're just having a conversation. This is your chance to say, this needs to be the platform and we should never use that. And I get my chance to say my piece. So do you hate WhatsApp? Do you have a suggestion on another platform? We're always going to use email. Anyone else? Any comments? Okay, moving on. Thank you, Jason. Couple last bit. I'm just trying to get to the housekeeping. There is a project called the California History Channel, and it's talking about covering the history of California and how it was forced into America, which included gunning down all the Latinos who fought against them, instituting segregation, launching a formal genocide, and creating Asian people as second-class residents. And all that happened in about 5 years, the moment illegal immigrants from America came in. So Hannah Miyamoto is pioneering that project. Hannah's not on the board. Hannah's not an advisor to the board. Hannah's currently under a prohibition. But, this is a tough spot to be in. It's a good project. Regardless of what you think about Hannah, I fully support that California History Project. And I would encourage all of you to reach out to Hannah and work on that history channel. It's a good idea. She's already done the commercial. She's already done the site. It looks good. It's hot. We need it. Definitely. So there you go. Next thing, next week, the Party for Independence from South Africa. So South African independence is called the Cape Party, has already agreed to come here and agree to talk to Yes California. As I understand, we are the only California independence movement or American independence movement that they're speaking with. Thank you, board member Mr. Stark, for creating a contact with that. Finally, this is an invite for everybody on, we are going to launch a political action committee. Yes, California was investigated by the FPPC when we had a political action committee in the past. I was not in charge then. I'm in charge now. It won't be run the same. I didn't get assigned the paperwork. I wasn't in charge. I had to follow orders. Now I'm running the ship. If you would like to be part of the Yes California Political Action Committee, where we will hire a political accountant to help with the manage the fundraising, I'm asking for people to email me and ask to be on that. I need at least 4 or 5 people who can understand what a PAC is and mostly how we have to stay within the law perfectly and are willing to step up at that level. Just email me. Basically, I heard from Alistair Caithness and Farhad the same thing. So Alistair Caithness is a cryptocurrency donor advisor. He asks for people to invest in blockchain. I'm not supposed to say crypto. Alistair asks people to invest in blockchain. He's able to get people to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on blockchain. While Alistair doesn't have the money, he's able to get people to get the money. He's really good at it. And he said, look, dude, Yes California has a brand. But if you don't have some political machine that people are used to donating to, they're not going to donate to you. So you need something that looks like a political party because you do politics. And people are used to a political party politics. So if you have something like that, I can go around and get people to donate to it. But it's got to be completely kosher, kosher. Legit. Farhad is a lawyer. He said the same thing to me. Doesn't know Alistair. So I got a lawyer and I got a professional fundraiser saying the same thing. You have a brand, but you don't have a kosher vehicle to run money through. People need to know that it's political and that it's on the up and up, and then they'll start donating. I ran that by Mitchell Beecher, Camby's Mostafizadeh, Don Sutton, and a couple of the others. And, you know, Don Sutton deals with and Jason Wright. Jason's been on a board. I ran it by him. I also ran it by Hannah. Camby's has run multiple boards. Camby's has run as a political consultant. Farhad's a lawyer, and Don Sutton deals with real estate and a lot of money. All of them said this is the right move. So one of the things I also heard was we need to hire a political accountant. And basically, I don't have all the pieces together, but we would hire somebody who the money goes through them. They keep all the paperwork. They send the IRS what they need, and then they give you your percentage. So they take a percentage of the money that comes in, and they make sure everything's kosher as hell. And if you ever get challenged, or anybody ever, you just go talk to them. And they have the reputation, right? Their whole business is we process money, so they can't be doing anything shady or they destroy their whole image. So I want to hire one of them because I know people are going to question, and I'd like to be able to point at someone and go, well, then accuse them of being a foreign Russian spy. By the way, they're $1 million company. Good luck when you get countersued by slander, and the IRS loves them. So if you'd like to be on a political action committee, if you'd like to help with me get a political accountant, and if you think this is an okay way to fundraise money, we're doing it. And I'm asking for people who'd like to jump in. I'm going to turn it over to questions.
Marcus, real quick, I could say from past experience, we know that we could at least expect an audit from such activities. And that's all I got to say.
True. Sam, is true. We're going to get audited. That's why I'm willing to put my name on the paperwork. I'll leave it there. As I understand, not everybody has to be on the paperwork. I think 1 or 2 people, maybe just 1. I'm willing to be that lamb, but I need 4 or 5 people who, even if you don't sign the paperwork and you're under no legal anything at all, I would be the only person on the legal paperwork. They couldn't come for you. They couldn't touch you at all. I still need 4 people to help me run this thing, who are smart and get it and can keep us on the up and up. So no legal responsibility or harm for you. I'll take all of it. But I need 4 people at least to go, okay, we're doing this. Anyone interested or any other comments about this form of fundraising? I'll turn it over to questions and comments now.
You could keep me in consideration. I mean, it's one of those things for me is like I'll dip my feet into whatever waters CalExit is involved in.
Okay.
Since this is an important thing, you know, like, of course. That being said, if there's a huge swarm of people flocking for it, I'm not going to be the first one to jump in. If there's no one going for it, though, you can count me in and, you know, let me know that, hey, you know, need you over there. And you got me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Any comments, questions, any statements about this fundraising vehicle? This is your time to say something as a board member. Matt, quick comment?
Yeah, well, as I was mentioning, I'm going to be approaching my party, my electoral party, PFP. And if it doesn't create a conflict, sure, I'm open to the idea of being on this PAC. It depends. So let me pursue that initiative first and see where that goes. And if I can do that, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Anyone else? Any comments from anyone else about this? Now's your time to say something. I'm not seeing any hands. Anyone have anything? I hate this idea. I love it. You need to watch out for this. Okay, then I'm going to conclude the meeting. I'm going to end record. We're going to have an open session. All I'm doing is ending the record. You can go and it's going to be free time chat. So let me end the recording. Just gonna, oops. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Stop.